you're walking down the street in any city in Canada and the police come up to you and they start asking you questions and block your path. Well, are you under detention under the law, under the charter here? And secondly, can they start just asking you questions? And when does it become illegal? When's that detention become illegal? This is the Kruse Law YouTube channel. We have a very interesting question today. We're going to break down a common question. When does the arbitrary detention become illegal? Is it illegal to detain someone in this vein? So let's break this down. And I'm going to give you some examples. So first of all, we have to understand what a detention is. A detention is different than arrest. Like a detention occurs when the police have a reasonable suspicion that a person's been involved in an offense. They can approach you and detain you. They can block you physically, for example, or psychologically, that you feel that you can't move and you have to stay there. That's a detention. You can't move anywhere, essentially, and that's under Section 9 of the Charter. So first of all, for detention to be legal, it has to be A, authorized by law, and B, carried out in a lawful manner. And those are two separate questions. So the first question is whether the police have a reasonable suspicion that you've been involved in a crime in order to detain you and ask you questions. Okay, that's the first question to ask. And I'll give you an example. So let's just see the police randomly come up to you on the sidewalk for no apparent reason and just start asking you questions. You're not free to leave. And they find something on you, a drug. They had no hunch. Maybe they were profiling you. Maybe you were black, a person of color, and they profiled you. That's an arbitrary detention. They did not have a reasonable suspicion, and that particular evidence might get thrown out in court due to a breach of Section 9. Section 9 of the Charter says everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned, and we need reasonable suspicion to detain a person. So that's the first point. The second point is the detention has to be carried out in a lawful manner. If it exceeds the bounds, it's not a lawful detention. They can't keep detaining you forever and not charging you, for example. Or let's say they did, to do a crazy example, a strip search of you. They took you in an alley. That's a crazy arbitrary detention. But even are they allowed to do a pat-down search? That depends on the circumstances. I covered that in a different video. Just because they have a hunch you did a particular crime, they may not be able to do a safety search. So two questions you have to ask. Do they have reasonable suspicion that you're involved in a crime? A. B. Did they carry out the detention in a lawful manner? It was too long. They searched you too vigorously. They kept you there too long, and they had no grounds to do this. So the whole point of this is that when someone's detained, it means you're not free to go. The police have either psychologically blocked you or physically blocked you. Maybe they put handcuffs on you. The Supreme Court of Canada talks about psychological detainment and being physically detained. The thing to do in this situation is ask the police, am I free to go? They're going to answer your question. Hopefully they say yes. You'll recall in past years, you've seen in the press that they were going up to people and it was called carding. In Toronto, they were randomly, it was blatant prejudice, frankly. They were targeting black men for no apparent reason, going up and starting asking them questions. This practice has been very limited now. They have to tell you that you're free to go. You don't have to answer the questions. And if they approach you in that way, and you stay, they ultimately have to hand you a card with your name on it. So don't fall for that. Just ask if you're free to go. But arbitrary detention, it's a very particular thing. You have to look at it this way. Is it lawful that they first detain you? And in many instances, they can detain you to ask some brief questions. You don't have to answer the questions, by the way, and you can ask for a lawyer. But the problem with asking for a lawyer on the street is they'll take you to the police station. So, if you don't want to talk to a lawyer, just say you're not answering questions. If they then arrest you, you can speak to a lawyer at the station. But you have a right to speak to a lawyer. There's no question. And whenever you're under detention, there's no question. So that's when situation that's an arbitrary detention becomes arbitrary, when it's not lawfully carried out and they originally didn't have a reasonable suspicion. And this happens all the time, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it was a problem, particularly in Toronto with carding. And now they're doing things better, thankfully. But don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's still a lot of targeting of people out there and prejudice going on in our society. It's gotten better, but it's still out there. So there you have it. That's a little bit of a short primer on investigative detention, stopping someone in the streets when you can, when you can't. And the takeaway I would give you on this is, number one, ask, am I free to leave? Because the police have to tell you, okay? Just don't start answering questions. Ask, am I free to leave? If they start answering questions, whether you're innocent, guilty, or somewhere in between, you don't have to ask them. Just shut up. If you want to ask for a lawyer, you can. The problem is there, they might have to take you to the police station to do that. What a lawyer is going to tell you to do is shut up and ask you, am I free to leave, and go from there. If you're placed under arrest, then ask for the lawyer, speak to the lawyer, follow their advice, and don't submit to police questioning. That's the takeaway I want you to take from this video of legal advice for someone who's been detained or arrested, okay? So anyway, this is the Kruse Law YouTube channel. It's been another great day of videos here today, and I want you to ask you to please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching our video. We are absolutely committed to bringing you the best possible criminal and DUI educational videos. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've been charged with a criminal offense in Ontario and require our services, please click on the link in the description below.